College in America costs about $30,000 a year right now, and that's just one kid at an average public university. It'll cost more next year, and it'll cost more the year after that. By the time your kid walks across the stage with their diploma, the price tag will look like something out of a horror movie. The S&P 500 has spent the last century outrunning almost everything. The question is whether it can outrun this. In this video, I'm taking the amount the average American family ends up saving for their kids' college, investing it into the S&P 500 the day their baby is born, and leaving it there for 18 years till he or she gets into college. No further contributions, no moving it around, just one deposit and one fund. And in the end, I'll show you exactly how much college tuition that account covers when your kid finally steps foot on campus, and what changes when you put in just $5,000 more. Here's the setup. Most American families don't have a plan when their kid's born. They have a feeling, they tell themselves they'll start saving soon, and they'll figure college out as they go, that there's plenty of time. And then time goes by faster than anyone expects. But there's a number worth knowing. The average American family ends up putting about $15,000 a year toward their kids' college out of their own pocket. That's what they pay each year during the 4 years their kids are actually in school. We're talking tuition help, housing help, books, the gap that scholarships don't cover, and it adds up. So here's the question this whole video is built around. What if, instead of paying that $15,000 per year during college, you took that exact same amount, $15,000, and front-loaded it once at birth into the S&P 500? Same money, but one time, just paid 18 years earlier. And our vehicle for the S&P 500 investment will be the Vanguard S&P 500 ETF, or VOO, the single most held S&P 500 fund in America. It owns the 500 largest companies in the country, weighted by size. When people say just put it in the index, this is usually what they mean. That's the bet. $15,000, one deposit, the day your baby is born, inside the S&P 500, untouched for 18 years by the time the kid gets into college. Now, before we run any numbers, there's one piece of this strategy that matters more than most parents realize. Yes, the fund matters, but the account you put it in matters just as much. Because if you invest $15,000 into VOO inside a regular brokerage account, the IRS is at the door from day one. Every dividend the fund pays, taxed. And when you finally pull the money out to write that tuition check 18 years later, taxed again on the gains. There's a better way to hold this. It's called a 529 plan. A 529 is a savings account designed for one purpose: paying for school. It's named after the section of the U.S. tax code that created it, Section 529, which, side note, is possibly the most boring naming convention in American finance. But the account itself, not boring at all. 3 things make it different from a regular brokerage account. First, the money grows tax-free. Every dividend the fund pays, every gain the account books, the IRS doesn't touch any of it. As long as the money stays inside the 529 and eventually gets used for education, it compounds without being taxed. Second, when you pull the money out for college, that's also tax-free. Tuition, room and board, books, fees, even some computer expenses, all qualified, all untouched by taxes on the way out. Third, most states give you a tax deduction on what you put in. Not all states, not the same amount everywhere, but enough that it's worth checking your state's plan before you pick one. Now, here's the catch. If your kid doesn't end up going to college, maybe full scholarship, or decides to start a business instead, whatever, pulling that money out for anything else gets hit with income tax plus a 10% penalty on the growth. That used to scare parents off, but there's a new rule as of 2024. Up to $35,000 of leftover 529 money can roll over into a Roth IRA for your child. So the what if they don't go problem, therefore I'm not going to open a 529, well, that mostly solves itself now. Here's the bottom line. Every single number you're about to see in this video assumes the $15,000 went into a 529, not a regular brokerage. The wrapper matters. We'll come back to exactly how much it matters near the end of the video. But first, let's see what the account is actually up against. Today, 4 years at an average public college in America runs about $124,000 total. That includes everything: tuition, fees, housing, food, books, the entire bill. About $30,000 a year, 4 years deep. But that's today's number. The kid in this video isn't going to college today, they're going in 2044. So we have to ask a harder question: what does college cost 18 years from now? The College Board tracks this every year. Over the last 2 decades, public 4-year college costs have climbed about 4.8% per year on average. That's faster than wages, faster than housing, faster than groceries. For this video, we're going to be a little conservative and use around 4%, a midpoint between that long-term average and the slower years we've had recently. Now, run that forward 18 years. Freshman year 2044 would cost about $65,000. Sophomore year, $68,000. Junior year, $70,000. Senior year, $73,000. Add it up. 4 years of public in-state college for the kid born today projects to about $276,000. $276,000 for a state school, public university. Okay, now we know the bill. The question is whether $15,000 in the S&P 500 can grow into something that can actually pay it. But before we run the numbers, let's talk about what VOO actually does. Since the fund launched in 2010, VOO's share price has climbed about 13.96% a year on average. On top of that, the fund pays a dividend, roughly 1.05% of the account value every year. And because this is in a 529, those dividends get reinvested automatically, buying more shares every quarter, which then compound alongside the rest of the account. The dividend isn't the headline, though. The share price climb is the headline. However, the reinvested dividends do the important slow work of buying more of the engine every 3 months. Now run it forward. Day 1. Your beautiful baby has arrived. $15,000 goes into VOO inside of 529. By the end of year 1, the account would reach $17,252. The market would add $2,094 in capital appreciation plus $158 in dividends, which are reinvested into more shares. Year 2 projected at $19,827. Year 3, $22,771. Year 4, $26,137. Year 5, $29,983. 5 years in, our kid is starting kindergarten. The account would roughly double. Sounds great in a vacuum, but here's the honest part. 5 years in is also when most parents start having doubts about this plan. The account would move from $15,000 to $29,983. That's real growth, but it's not the kind of growth that gets you excited about leaving it alone for 13 more years. The temptation to pull it, move it, or do something else with it, that temptation is real. And it's where this strategy fails for most parents who try it. Look, the hardest part of an 18-year plan isn't year 18, it's year 5. But let's say you're disciplined, you hold. Here's what happens next. Year 10, your kid's in 4th grade. The account climbs to $59,148. Stop and look at what just happened in the projection. Year 1 would add about $2,094 in growth. Year 10? Well, year 10 alone would add $7,214. Same rate of return, but the base the percentage is multiplying against keeps getting bigger. And because of this, the dollar amount each year keeps getting bigger too. That is compounding. Not the textbook version with the curve graph, the real version, where the same percentage starts producing wildly different dollar amounts because there's more money for it to multiply against. Year 15, we're now in high school. The account reaches $115,665, halfway to the answer. But that bill, $276,000 for 4 years of college, is still sitting out there waiting for us. And it doesn't feel like we're going to get there. Okay, stay with me, because what happens in the next 3 years is where the real story lives. Year 18. 18 years went by entirely too fast, and now your baby is, my goodness, an adult. The acceptance letters from colleges are coming in. And the account? Projections show $172,458. From $15,000. Without a single additional dollar going in after our baby's first birthday, over 11 times the original deposit. Of the $157,458 in total growth, capital appreciation would contribute $152,768, which is the share price climbing over those 18 years. The reinvested dividends would add another $4,690. The market climbing does all the heavy lifting, while the dividends do the slow work in the background. And remember, every dollar of that growth happens tax-free because the account is a 529. So here's where the math ultimately lands. The account would be worth $172,458. The 4-year college bill, projected forward to 2044, would be $276,000. And so the account is short, on paper, by about $104,000. But here's what most people miss. The account doesn't get emptied on day one of college. The kid pulls out 1 year of tuition each fall. The rest stays invested. The rest keeps compounding. The real question isn't whether the account beats the bill on the 18th birthday. The real question is whether it can survive 4 years of tuition coming out of it while the rest keeps growing inside. Let's check out what those projections show. Fall 2044, freshman year, the account stands at $172,458. The freshman bill is $65,291. That comes out. What's left? $107,167, and that balance keeps growing during freshman year. Fall 2045, the beginning of sophomore year, the account grows to $122,127, considering VOO's 13.96% rate. Sophomore tuition is $67,902. That comes out. $54,229 left inside, still compounding. Fall 2046, junior year, the account would grow to $61,795, but junior tuition is $70,619. Hit the brakes. Right there, partway through junior year, the account runs dry. $8,824 short of finishing the junior year bill. Senior year, there's nothing left. And that's our result. Freshman, paid in full. Sophomore, paid in full. Junior, 88% there before the account empties. Senior year, zero. Tuition has to come entirely from somewhere else. Add up what's still owed, and the family's looking at $82,267 they'd have to find from loans, from income, from scholarships, from a part-time job, from all of it together, perhaps. Here's what that means. The strategy worked. The market would compound. The 529 would protect every dollar invested from taxes. The $15,000 would grow more than 11 times its original size, but our kid would graduate college with about a year and a half of unpaid tuition holding them down. A horrible way to enter the workforce already deeply in debt. That's the honest math. The strategy beats almost every other passive savings option out there, but it doesn't beat college. Well, it does, to an extent, just not all of it. But there's another version of this story. Same fund, same wrapper, same 18 years untouched, same market doing the same thing. The only difference, instead of $15,000, you put in $20,000 on day one. $5,000 more, that's all. Where does the extra $5,000 come from? It's not nothing. But it's also not unrealistic. The IRS lets a single grandparent gift up to $19,000 per year to a grandchild, totally tax-free. Two grandparents combined can put in $38,000. So an extra $5,000 at birth isn't some wealth-only number. It's one grandparent's contribution, or one really lucrative baby shower, or a parent who saved a little before the baby arrived. Here we go. Let's run the same math, this time with $20,000 in VOO, inside of 529, same 13.96% average annual appreciation, dividends reinvested, 18 years untouched. Year 18, the account would reach $229,944. $5,000 more at the start would grow into $57,486 more by year 18, over 11 times leverage on the extra deposit. The starting amount wouldn't just add $5,000, it would compound into more than 11 times that. Now run the drawdown. Fall 2044, freshman year. The account stands at $229,944. The freshman bill, $65,291 comes out. There's $164,653 left inside. Fall 2045, sophomore year, the account would grow to $187,640. Sophomore tuition, $67,902. There's $119,738 left. Fall 2046, junior year, the account would grow to $136,453. Junior tuition, $70,619. $65,834 left. Fall 2047, the beginning of senior year, the account would grow to $75,021, and senior tuition is $73,443. We pulled that out, and what's left when we have a graduate? $1,578. The plan would cover all 4 years, public in-state tuition fees, housing, food, books, all of it, with $1,578 to spare at the end. Same fund, same wrapper, same market. The only thing that changed was $5,000 at the start. That is what compounding does to a starting amount. So we've got our answer. $20,000 in the S&P 500 at birth, held inside of 529, would cover 4 years of public in-state college with a little to spare. But here's one more reveal, and it's the one most parents never see coming. The whole video assumed you used a 529. Now picture you'd done the exact same thing, same $20,000, same VOO, same 18 years, but in a regular taxable mortgage account instead. What changes? Well, as we know, every year the fund pays dividends. In a 529, those compound tax-free. However, in a brokerage account, the IRS takes about 15% every year for 18 straight years. On top of that, when the money comes out at year 18 to pay tuition, the brokerage account gets hit again. Long-term capital gains tax on every dollar of growth. Another 15% off the top. Run that drag through 18 years and the brokerage account would land closer to $195,000 instead of $229,944. A $35,000 gap. Same investment, same market, same timeline. The only difference was which account it sat in. The 529 didn't just save the plan. It was the plan. Now, if you wanted to hit $1 million in 10 years starting from zero, I built a Fidelity plan that does exactly that, and I'll show you exactly how John reaches it. That video is on screen right now.